B1 family, welcome to Blacklogic. Happy Juneteenth to everyone. And what's important about Juneteenth, we're going to jump right into it, family. Juneteenth is also known as Freedom Day, which marked the end of slavery in the United States. It origins date back to June 19, 1865. And this is when Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, with the news that the Civil War had ended and enslaved individuals were now free. Now, think if they had cell phones, they had a little tap rotary where they could send messages, they probably would have known further ahead of time, but they had to wait till the soldiers come back home to find out that information. But that same information was delayed. It was delayed news of emancipation reaching Texas highlights the challenging phase of all of our people. Because despite the Emancipation Proclamation being issued 2 years earlier, the enforcement of this freedom was slow in reaching all states, impacting lives and communities. Because over the years, Juneteenth has evolved into a celebration of freedom, resilience, and Black American culture and foundational Black American culture. It's a day filled with traditions like parades, cookouts, picnics, and music, and showcasing the strength and unity of the Black community in face of adversity. See, today, family, we are witnessing a pivotal moment as Juneteenth gains recognition as a national holiday. And we're going to speak about that because this acknowledgement not only honors the struggles of the past, but also promotes awareness, education, and unity across the nation. And to triple down, family, what's also important about Juneteenth, it's another verifiable proof that this country recognized that foundational Black Americans' ancestors were enslaved and that we are indeed descendants of enslaved people. You see what I'm saying? Simply by them acknowledging and passing this holiday, this triplifies and verifies what we already know. So they can't deny what occurred, but they will like to deny our reparations. It just won't happen. It just won't happen, family. But we're going to break down Juneteenth even more so, and I think you guys may enjoy it. Well, let's pop this up for you guys. I really want to show you and saw somewhere, give me 1 second here, around here, the historical legacy of Juneteenth. And I will not be doing a lot of reading from here. I just want to point something out here. Here's the picture. On Freedom's Eve of January 1st, 1863, the first watch night services took place. On that night, enslaved and free Black Americans gathered in churches and private homes across the country, awaiting news that the Emancipation Proclamation had taken effect. At the stroke of midnight, prayers were answered as all enslaved people in Confederate states were declared legally free. Union soldiers, many of whom were Black, marched onto plantations across cities in the South, reading small copies of the Emancipation Proclamation, spreading the news of freedom in the Confederate States. Only through the 13th Amendment did emancipation end slavery throughout the United States, which isn't true. I'm going to stop right there, which isn't true. It states here that the 13th Amendment did emancipate and end slavery throughout the United States. Now, if anybody is familiar with the 13th Amendment, you know this is false. I'm going to go there very quickly. And I'm going to read something to you, okay? The 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution is passed by Congress in 1865. So neither slave nor involuntary servitude, okay, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude. However, the amendment was passed with much controversy over its interpretation, okay? So I really want to point those words out because here's the 13th Amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except Except is just as well as the word but. So neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. So slavery is still legal in America. Okay, family, if you put except there, I can put but there. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, but as a punishment. Okay, so there's many words that you can put in replace of that to let you know that slavery still exists in America. Okay, but as I stated before, I won't bore you with that. You guys are already well versed in that. So let's get straight to the facts. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed by Lincoln, as I stated before, January 1st, 1863, and supposedly freeing all the enslaved people in the Confederate States. But it took more than 2 years for this news to reach Galveston, Texas. Think about that. 2 whole years. It's like doing 2 more years in jail. It's like staying 2 more years in your room. It's going through torture for 2 more years. And so for those 2 more years, those 2 years continued the suffering and exploitation and the denial of our people's freedom. See, this delay wasn't just a miscommunication, family. It was an intentional act to squeeze every last drop of labor out of those ancestors, out of our ancestors. Because I want you to think about this as well. During those 2 years that those foundational Black Americans should have been free, how many of them died? How many of them was murdered? How many of them was raped? How many of them was tortured during those 2 years? During those 2 years. Because family, believe it or not, and this is a stretch, when reparations are paid, certain people who have went through more atrocities than others should receive more. Take, for instance, they did 2 more years of slavery. Okay, then they get times 2 the amount on top of the reparations that were owed. But them staying 2 more years in slavery, it's just a stark reminder of systematic cruelty that our people have faced. And white supremacy hasn't went anywhere. It just transformed, is amalgamated, it metamorphosized into a different shape, into a different thing. No, it's not as barbaric as it once was. They just have the race soldiers with badges to do it. But now, Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom, is it not? It's a day of joy, family. For a moment there, I really wasn't like publicly celebrating Juneteenth, but it is a day of great importance. It's a day of joy, it's a day of remembrance and reflection. But here's the kicker. Now, it's recognized as a federal holiday, but what you and I should be very, very careful of is not let it become just another commercialized event that glosses over the real issues that we have. They've been commercializing this thing, marketizing this thing, advertising this thing. We have people who are stating that they're having Juneteenth celebration that doesn't represent our culture. And this is the thing. And people look at me crazy when I say it should be a national holiday for foundational Black Americans. Yeah. You guys can go to work. We should be y'all. And people just thought I was crazy. Maybe you do too. But that's the way I look at it. Because now Juneteenth is recognized as a federal holiday. And the only thing they've been doing is commercializing it. They're not just giving away things for free, celebrating Juneteenth, federal day off. And a lot of people are still working on Juneteenth. So let me break it down for you. Juneteenth, and as I stated before, we should recognize that we should celebrate it if that's your thing. Okay? It's a day of joy. But Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday is a symbolic gesture. It is really no tangibles that is going to benefit financially, economically, foundational Black Americans to live a better life in this country as they should for the work that their forefathers and ancestors have done. their foremothers and forefathers. Absolutely. It's important that we understand that Juneteenth is not anything that we should be pounding the pavement, beating the drum, hitting our chest about. Because they're definitely going to bring up Juneteenth. Oh, well, Joe Biden signed in Juneteenth. This doesn't address systematic issues that continue to oppress foundational Black Americans. Juneteenth doesn't do that. We can't let ourselves be fooled into thinking that the symbolism equates to any sort of substantive change. This country has a history of giving us symbols instead of solutions. This country has a history of giving us symbolic gestures rather tangibles. For example, look at the Civil Rights Act, which I covered not too long ago. It was a landmark law that outlawed segregation and discrimination, but did it in racism. No, because no law, no legislation can end racism. It's internal, it's embedded in some folk. It's taught to some folk. That needs to be eradicated in many other different ways. Did it end economic disparity? No, civil rights didn't do that. It was a step or a half step when it comes to us, but not the solution. And also the Voting Rights Act of 65, which aimed to eliminate racial discrimination in voting. But here we are in 2024, people are still talking about voter suppression. They're breaking up districts to divide and diminish the Black vote. That's what they're talking about. They're aimed at disenfranchising Black voters. These laws were very necessary, none the least. But they didn't dismantle the systematic foundation of white supremacy. And some may ask, well, then why is Juneteenth so important? Again, it's important because it marks a pivotal moment in our history, a moment when the last of our enslaved ancestors were told that they were free. It's also a reminder of the resilience and the strength of our people, because we shouldn't forget, it's also a reminder of the broken promises and delayed justice that have plagued us for so many years, so many centuries. Which leads me to why reparations are very crucial, because reparations are not just about a check. It's a package. It's also about addressing the economic, educational, and social disparities that stem directly from slavery and systematic racism. See, everybody can tell Black folk, pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Stop crying, nigga. Do something. Get off your butt. Stop being lazy. They can say all of that, but none of them can point to their past. None of them can point to their past in this country of economic deprivation, of years, hundreds of years of torture, 100 years of denial. Whether we're segregated or we're integrated. And some people believe, and I won't just say believe, statistically founded. When integration occurred, the wealth of the Black family went down. It decreased. So that's what people are not understanding. So when people from other groups and people who are not well-versed historically or understand what actually happened in the past, we have to understand the root of the problem. People are looking at the fruit. Yeah. If you build the foundation of Black Americans' economic wealth off a bad foundation, these are the fruit of the tree, whether it be ripe or unripened. That's what people are not understanding. If you enslaved us in this country 200 some odd years, 400 years of translated chattel slavery, then you have to understand, in order for people to build themselves back up after you've stolen and destroyed and taken everything, they're going to need assistance in an oppressive system. You can't do both, family, and expect for them people to succeed. That's impossible. You can't take, destroy, and steal everything they have. And then when they trying to apply for a job, apply for a loan, try to get a home, and you deny, deny, deny. How are they to build wealth? And then you bring other people over here from other countries. You give them resources, you give them benefits, you give them additional funds, and they're able to make a way. They're able to build a business. They open it up nail shops and restaurants and hardware stores, all sorts of things. But this is what I like to tell us, because our ancestors built this country with a lot of blood. The wealth generated by forced labor, family, for the foundation of this country, for the foundation of America's economic prowess, from the cotton fields to the railroads to the Indiegogo to the sugar cane. Our ancestors' labor enriched the nation while leaving us in poverty. People will keep talking about generational wealth, generational wealth, generational wealth. Our family have already built generational wealth. That doesn't mean you stop here. You continue to build, but our ancestors already built generational wealth, and it would have been passed down, you see. And a lot of the people who are telling you to stop being lazy are the benefactors of European social welfare when they did the Homestead Act, when they was giving them land grants, when they was giving them funding and support to build agricultural farms and industries, etc. The Homestead Act of 1862, because that gave away millions of acres of land to white peasant families, meaning poor families. So they came up here with a leg up, and all the while excluding foundational Black Americans. And even when it comes to the GI Bill after World War II, which provided white veterans housing and education and benefits that were largely denied to our Black veterans, because these policies created generational wealth for white families and left our families behind. That's why we're so behind the power curve. Understand the history to understand the present, to see where the future can take us. Because reparations are about rectifying these injustices. It's not about a handout. It's not about getting free money. It's about getting something for nothing. It's not about any of that. Because if we talk numbers, Georgetown University, there was a study 2019 that estimated that slavery generated at least $40 trillion. See, they didn't fluctuate in inflation, all that. They came up to 10 trillion. Then when you factor in compounding interest, inflation, etc., we're at $40 trillion in today's U.S. economy. This is the wealth that was extracted from our ancestors without compensation. Reparations is about acknowledging the theft, the destruction, and taking steps to correct it. So, family, while we celebrate Juneteenth, it's not just a day to get off for a barbecue, even though I love both, but more so it's a call to action. It's a reminder of the work still ahead of us. Don't be pacified by the symbolism of Juneteenth, okay? You can do two things at the same time. You can celebrate it and understand what it is and what it is not. It is a day of joy and remembrance. And if you want to celebrate it, so be it. But also understand it's a day of a symbolic gesture that yields no tangibles for our people. We must demand substance, we must demand justice, and we must demand our reparations, which is owed. Because until America pays its debt to foundational Black Americans, true freedom will remain a dream and deferred. We should honor our ancestors, family. We should honor our ancestors. I see Bulls fans 25, Solo T 40. And honoring our ancestors This day is about the courage and resiliency of our ancestors. That's what this is about when we're celebrating Juneteenth. We pay homage to those who endure unspeakable hardships and still fought for their freedom. It's a day to remember their sacrifices and celebrate their triumphs. And also, Juneteenth is a perfect opportunity to educate yourself and others about the true history of America. Take somebody you never knew, take somebody you'll never know, and inform and educate them about Juneteenth. A history that's often whitewashed in textbooks, especially in Texas. This day reminds you and I that the struggle for Black liberation didn't end. It didn't end with Emancipation Proclamation, but it highlights the systematic delays and injustices that our ancestors faced, which echoes into the present day by understanding this. We can better navigate our path toward justice and equality. Yes, we can. It's definitely a time for us to come together and share our stories and strengthen our bond with one another, with our Black brothers and sisters who are foundational Black Americans. Yes, we can stand unified and organized and powerful. Because when we gather to celebrate, we're not just having a good time, we're building networks, we're fostering solidarity, and we are empowering each other. Our unity is our strength. Our Juneteenth is a powerful reminder of that. We should celebrate our progress, but we also recognize the ongoing fight in the system that we live each and every day, whether it be police brutality or economic inequality. Juneteenth should inspire us to continue the struggle for true freedom and justice for foundational Black Americans. There's a lot of people who are going to cosplay the culture. There's going to be a lot of people to try to take the legs from under the table from the culture. But it's a day for us to embrace our heritage, to celebrate our contributions to this country, all of the beautiful and wonderful things that foundational Black Americans have done. Whether it be inventing the refrigerator, truck, ice cream, the Nerf gun, etc. With it creating the first color monitor, the list goes on, family. It's time to take pride in who we are. From music to art to food to fashion, whatever floats your boat. Juneteenth is a vibrant display of Black culture and our creativity. Because everybody loves Black culture, but everybody hates Black people. Damn. What a contradicting conundrum that we live in. But it's also a reminder of the hardships of a lot of our people's spirits that remain unbroken. And even in that, we understand our culture still thrives. It still strives. So again, Juneteenth is more than just a historical acknowledgement. It's an act of empowerment. It's a way for us to reclaim our narrative, honor our past, and inspire our future. That's what Juneteenth is. It can do all of those things, and it should do all of those things. So let's celebrate Juneteenth, and however you celebrate it, with pride, with joy, with a shot from your favorite liquor bottle. I mean, I don't know, however you celebrate it. But celebrate it with a fierce determination to continue the fight for justice and reparation. This is our day. This is our day in history. And this is our day for our future. So let's make it count. And one person who I know will want us to celebrate it and still pound the payment for reparation, you already know, family, who and what he is.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, They built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. Now, this is what we are faced with, and this is the reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
B1.